And joining me now is Dr. Laura Meyers. She's speaking on behalf of Planned Parenthood Advocates for D.C., Maryland, and Northern Virginia. Dr. Meyers, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the Supreme Court ruling in Alabama. What impact could we see here in the DMV?
Well, I think most importantly that ruling is an extension of what has been the personhood movement, meaning trying to obtain legal status for at the moment of conception. So this ruling takes that argument to its natural extension in terms of embryos. I think that this is obviously a very disturbing ruling that could have impact nationally in terms of the availability of physicians. Certainly in Alabama, there's a great deal of confusion about what this is going to mean for couples. And at the end of the day, people should be able to, free from government intervention, be able to make decisions about when and how to become parents. And so this ruling has very tragic consequences.
Yeah, Dr. Meyers, you talked about the impact that it's going to have on couples. How does this ruling affect women and or families who use in vitro fertilization to start a family?
Well, that's it. I mean, I think this is exactly what we're talking about, is those couples, and I think a few of our elected leaders have come forward already to talk about how they've started their families with in vitro fertilization. I'm sure that we all know families where they've used IVF to have a family. So this affects a wide swath of people who, but again, this is a direct consequence of personhood language that's been embedded in state codes throughout the country. And these so-called personhood laws first passed in an effort to limit abortion, but now we know they don't stop there. As this decision makes clear, attacks on abortion ripple and harm all manner of reproductive health care, including IVF, in vitro fertilization, and even birth control.
And around the country, is there a way that other states try to set the same standard?
I think that's exactly what could be the case, where we have personhood bills in states, trigger laws in states banning abortion, and these extreme state legislatures enacting laws that limit people's decisions. And of course, we know that decisions around one's health care, whether it's reproductive health care or any health care decision, should be between that person and their doctor. Politicians should never be part of that equation. Politicians should never insert themselves into those decisions, into those exam rooms.
Directly or indirectly, is this an attack on women?
Well, I certainly think personhood is about trying to control people's bodies. So anyone who's capable of getting pregnant, this is about control and who gets to control their own bodies. So certainly this is about people's ability to control what happens to their bodies and ultimately then what happens in their lives. And so, again, this is a very dire consequence of this personhood movement. And so now, within days, we saw that Alabama IVF patients have been confronted with heartbreaking decisions about whether and how to pursue care, as providers across that state have paused their services. So when we think about limits on IVF and other fertility, how that disproportionately impacts and burdens, particularly LGBTQ plus families, the same people facing attacks on their reproductive freedom in general, and for trans people, their very existence.
Dr. Meyers, what is your advice to people? What's your message to people?
My message is always pay attention. When there is, when you have the ability to vote, do so. Examine carefully a particular politician's positions, what they've been in the past, and how now we find that the same politicians who were enthusiastic backers of personhood bills in the past are backpedaling away from that because they see that the vast majority of Americans, one, favor legal and safe abortion, and of course, even more Americans support access to things like in vitro fertilization and birth control. And so these same politicians, you're seeing them try to back away from those positions to try to appear moderate, but when in fact they have supported these extreme policies all along.
Dr. Laura Meyers, thank you very much for your time.
You are most welcome.